All right, let's talk about one of the biggest, most influential, and honestly, most controversial companies of our time. We're going to trace the incredible story of how a project born in a Harvard dorm room grew into the global behemoth we now call Meta. It's a story of absolutely explosive growth, unbelievable ambition, and consequences that have literally changed the world. So that's the big question we're tackling today, right? How on earth did a college project become one of the most powerful and complicated companies on the planet? So here's how we're going to break it all down. We'll start with the incredible rise, looking at the Facebook experiment and how it started connecting the world. Then we'll get into the tough stuff, the age of scandal. And finally, we'll look at their huge pivot with the Meta makeover and their massive bet on building the metaverse. Okay, so part one. Let's wind the clock all the way back to the beginning, when this whole thing was just a simple experiment. You probably know the story. It all kicks off in a Harvard dorm room back in 2004 as the Facebook. At first, it was all about being exclusive, but that didn't last long. A year later, they dropped the "the," and by 2006, the floodgates opened. It was now available to anyone over 13. And that move, that was the rocket fuel. In just 4 years, it went from a campus fad to the world's #1 social network. It completely changed the game. And you have to remember, the mission back then was so, idealistic, right? To make the world more open and connected. It was a powerful idea, and it's what fueled that insane growth. But, as we're about to see, that simple mission was about to get very, very complicated. But just growing fast wasn't the end game. Not even close. The next phase was all about achieving a scale that was just unheard of, and using that scale to completely dominate the digital world. And get this, by 2012, they hit a truly mind-boggling number, 1 billion active users every single month. That's like 1 out of every 7 people on Earth at the time. It wasn't just a website anymore. It was basically a global utility. And when you have that many users, you have an insane amount of power. And they weren't afraid to use it. That very same year, 2012, they did something that just sent shockwaves through Silicon Valley. They bought a tiny little photo sharing app called Instagram for $1 billion. $1 billion. People thought they were crazy, but they saw the future. They knew mobile and photos were a huge threat to their text-based newsfeed. Turns out, it was one of the smartest moves in tech history. Oh, and they were just getting started. The playbook was pretty simple, really. If a company looks like a threat, just buy it. So they snagged the messaging app WhatsApp for a jaw-dropping $19 billion. And then they made a really weird move that nobody quite got at the time. They bought a virtual reality company called Oculus for $2 billion. It was the first real hint of what was to come. Facebook was no longer just Facebook. It was the sprawling empire of apps that ran our digital lives. But you know how these stories go. With great power comes, well, a whole lot of problems. And that brings us to the second act of this story, the fall. Let's call it the age of scandal. Things really started to go south around 2018. That whole connecting the world mission, it started to feel pretty dark. Headlines like this one became the norm. The trust, the very foundation the entire platform was built on, just started to completely fall apart. And look, this wasn't just one little slip-up. It was a full-blown avalanche of crises, one after another. You had the Cambridge Analytica scandal, where data from millions of people was harvested for political ads. Then came the firestorm over election misinformation, with the platform's own algorithms being blamed for fanning the flames. All of this just blew the lid off everyone's concerns about privacy, leading to massive antitrust lawsuits and regulators breathing down their necks. The company was in some seriously hot water.
So the company is facing a massive identity crisis, taking punches from literally every direction. What do? Well, you do something drastic. Welcome to part 3, the rebirth and the great Meta makeover. And then it happened. October 28th, 2021. Mark Zuckerberg gets on stage and announces that Facebook Inc. is changing its name to Meta Platforms. And you gotta understand, this was way more than just a PR move to escape the bad press. It was a huge signal, a declaration that the company's future wasn't social media anymore. It's about what they were going to build next. So what is this metaverse they're betting the entire farm on? Let's break it down real simple. Think of it as the next evolution of the internet. Instead of just looking at screens on our phones and computers, the idea is that we'll be inside the internet.
using things like virtual and augmented reality to work, play, and socialize in these shared 3D spaces. You can really see the massive shift right here. The old mission for Facebook Inc. was all about connecting people on their 2D apps. The new mission for Meta, it's to actually build the 3D world, the Metaverse, and then help people connect inside of it. The focus is shifting from the phone in your pocket to a headset on your face. It's a total pivot. Okay, so building a whole new version of the internet sounds pretty ambitious, right? Well, the amount of money they're throwing at this is it's staggering. Just look at the raw numbers. Meta's Metaverse division, called Reality Labs, is burning through more than $10 billion every single year. And the money they're making from it, it's a tiny, tiny fraction of that. This isn't just an investment. It's a colossal, company-defining gamble on a future that is nowhere near guaranteed. So there you have it, the whole crazy journey. From a dorm room to global domination, through a storm of scandals, and now a hard pivot into a virtual future that nobody's really sure about. And it all leaves us with this one giant question. Is Meta actually building the next digital frontier that will change our lives forever? Or are we watching the most expensive bet in the history of technology go down in flames? I guess only time will tell.